Hi guys, it's Chess Learning for Life here, back with another video after a long time, but just had other priorities, but now I'm back at this again in introducing the FIDE World's Women's Championship 2025 with the challenger Tan Zhongyi versus the defending champion Zhu Wenjun. So although they've already played game 6 today, sorry I was on a trip, so couldn't update this. But I wanted to start episode 1 and really use this opportunity to make some educational analysis on this and really try to explain the moves. And when I say try, it's because I'm still in intermediate really, but I'll still try to explain their moves and stuff. So the game starts off similar to an open Sicilian, but with the move e6, which maybe preps for d5 in the future, and things does plan out like an open Sicilian. And here a really good idea is, which pawn do you take with? So Tan Zhongyi took with the b pawn, so why not take with the d pawn? Now scan the chessboard, scan the black pieces, and then you will see this guy staring at this, and even if he goes to d7 staring at this with like no future. Right, that's why you take with the b pawn and open up lines for your bishop and prep for maybe a d5 push. And see, just like that, fighting on light squares. And here a really good idea with depth behind, and just knight d2. So the idea of playing the knight to d2 instead of the standard c3 square is, you could see on c3 you're really targeting nothing, like takes. Your knight won't help with attacking here, and with your knight on d2 you could maybe even push for c4 to fight for this d5 square. So knight d2, immediately goes for pin, putting pressure, threatening e5. So this forces black to place this bishop on e7 instead of g7, which g7, this fianchetto bishop would be very strong. And if you really insisted in taking this pawn, there would be bishop takes, and these pawn islands is just really hard to guard. Like, just look at this, right? So castles and a5. What kind of idea is this? So firstly, generally it's a move that gains space advantage, and second of all, I think it's an idea of trading the bishop. This is an idea of trading a bad piece for a good piece. Trade this bishop, bad black bishop, for this good white bishop, and really just stopping maybe in the future pushing a4 to stop this maneuver. And the game goes on. You see, just Zhu already protecting against the threat of trading bishops. Castles, and Tan is just removing from the pin and just trading off pieces. This is still very fine stuff until c4. So how to decide if c4 is a premature or a well-timed push? So firstly, let's look at other ideas. Like, actually, you could have maybe prepared the c4 push better with rook fe1 facing the queen, or maybe you could have went for knight f3, guard this d4 square, and then push for c4, so there's no d4. Now let's show if d4 here. There is e5, which sets up an attack. A pawn on e5 is really good for the attacking side, because pawn on e5 means there's no knight on f6. But still, there is c5, and there is a protected pass pawn, which you usually don't want to allow because it's pretty strong, and therefore c4 may be kind of premature, but things are still fine. Now comes knight e5, which is just always look for forcing moves, right? So this is a very good move. Another move I'll consider is maybe bishop a6. But maybe there are some tactical reasons. Yeah, tactical reasons, because after the queen takes, and yep, so bishop a6 doesn't work. See, I'm just analyzing it on the spot. I'm sorry if it's but I'm taking you through the thinking process of the players. And really, this move just forces the action and forces him to take. Gets the bishop. Usually a bishop is better than a knight, so therefore takes the bishop. And then take. Now queen d3 is kind of like a move that steps out of the line of fire, because bishop a6 is very strong. Because now this pawn is basically pinned. I'm thinking if you take and play bishop a6, does it really win a tempo? Wait, let's see. Here, if you take, yes, bishop a6 does win a tempo, but the thing is, there's queen takes h6, right? So now Tan is really calling for a draw right here, like just willingly damaging his pawn or her pawn structure. And Ju takes the queen. I mean, well, why not? Maybe we could play the endgame and somehow win this one. And also just create this isolated pawn right here. Look at these 3 pawn islands versus 2. So the less pawn islands, the more stable it is. And this central isolated queen's pawn, IQP, is now a weakness after the pieces are traded. And let's see if Ju could capitalize on this. So both players going for open and half open files, and g4 is just a very nice idea. which stops a kingside expansion. Look, like this king is very trapped in f3, maybe even f5, or just leaving the pawn tension right here, and just really this pawn is controlling this king. Knight f1, aiming for this e3 square. Now a4 is a very typical pawn sacrifice because you know you're gonna win the pawn back, right? Like this. And now a double attack, and you're just gonna win one back. And although, yeah, you lost this pawn on d5, you're basically trading all the weaknesses. And you're playing this 4-on-3 where the black pieces are slightly more active than the white pieces, and this pawn is going nowhere, right? This rook is very well controlling this file, this rank, and this file. Look, the pawn already drops here, right? And after a little shuffling, you take right here. Yeah, it's either f3 or h3, but you're just ruining. It's gonna be an fh pawn structure. Just like that. And here it's just rook n2 versus rook n2, and players make a draw the first game, and accuracy is 99%, right? So yeah, this is game 1 of the FIDE's Women's World Championship 2025, and stay tuned, subscribe, like and subscribe for game 2 and so on, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Goodbye.